Today's webinar, which is about coping with grief and loss, is the first of the webinar series on trauma awareness. We have a facilitator here, Andrea Jacob. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Smita.
How are you?
So far, so good. I can
Great.
see a lot of faces. That's nice.
Thank you so much for being with us, and I welcome Andrea, our facilitator for this evening, everybody. So about Andrea is Andrea is a movement specialist, and she has worked with individuals from 6 months to 95-year-olds. Her work has garnered global and local exposure from educational institutions, prisons, juvenile homes, and correctional facilities. She works towards creating inclusive healing spaces with the corporates, the marginalized communities, and animals. I now open the floor for Andrea to take over. Thank you, Andrea. The floor is yours now.
Thank you, Smita. Thank you for your kind words. And before I begin, I just want to thank you all for actually coming to this. I think we're starting something new because in grief, we always grieve. It's something most people do it alone, and not many actually do this together. So from that angle, I would really like to commend you for being here. So that's my beginning. And there's one more thing I would like to say. At the end of the session, we are doing a little bit of sharing. And I would really like it if you would like to share something about your own personal experience, because in sharing, we are healing. We're healing so many people. My entire webinar is based on community sharing, stories of what people have shared with me. And of course, my personal sharing too. So the entire, content that you're going to see is based on a collective community as a whole for us to heal together. And so I would really love it if you would join me in, sharing at the end of this session. And there are no judgments here. So the idea of this session is nobody is being judged. How we deal with anything. There's no judgment. There's no time limit. Only for the webinar, there's a time limit, but there's no time limit for sharing. So you can always get in touch and share. I would really love it because most of my content is based on personal sharing. And that's where I really feel it's important. So today is all about just personal stories. That's what I'm going to be doing with you. At one point, I will be doing a little bit of us moving together. You are free to move. You're free not to move. It's your choice. I don't want to, force anything on you. But if you'd like to, great, and share it with everyone around you. Share it with your family members, share it with everyone around you so that we could actually heal, together. So thank you for this, and let's begin with the webinar. So thank you for the next slide. Thank you. I will reduce my background music. Just give me a second. Yeah, so we bereaved are not alone. We belong to the largest company in all the world, the company of those who have known suffering. And I wanted to open, thank you, Subhashri. I wanted to open with this quote because it's very important for us to realize that when we empty ourselves together, and there's no good and bad, that we are learning something. And in grief, there is so much for all of us to actually find each other, share with each other and find each other together. And so for that reason, I really wanted to open with this quote, because when all the stories that, I'm going to be sharing in the next few minutes, most of them were such, everyone was being vulnerable, and everyone was actually sharing stories about grief where we feel like it's only us, where we feel we're alone in this. And that's something that, kind of disturbed me, because already we're in a pandemic where we're building walls, we're building, we're building borders and boundaries. And to be grieving alone, it was the worst thing, just yesterday, just yesterday, I met someone who was, grieving, who lost her mother, and nobody, even though she's living in a flat, it's been 1 month and nobody has visited her, nobody, no one, and so that kind of pain and anguish, and that kind of just not being able to, even though there are doors around you, there are houses around you, the fear of death is taking over our lives. And it's something that I wish we could talk about more openly. And that's why today's session is about the fear of death. I always begin all my sessions talking about death. So today I'm really comfortable and I'm happy that we're doing it today, and I do it with all my loved ones. Some of them are here. I do it with I have a 5-year-old child. We talk about it, on a regular basis, only because even so now in a pandemic, because none of us are immortal. And if we think that, it's a very uncomfortable conversation, we are not really preparing our loved ones. And it's just the joy of, sharing things that you're most uncomfortable, death in particular. It helps us to understand how, the person will come up with more answers and questions for us to, communicate. So it gives us a little bit more kind of an understanding to relate to death. So have these conversations every day. One of the things that I do that is important is I look at the obituary column in the Hindu newspaper. It's something I did with my dad, and I continue it with my daughter. And it's just to understand the value of life, and just by reading those 2 lines of a loved one, it might be someone I don't know, but just knowing that I know the value of that person's life gives me more reason to live, gives me more reason to find reason to live. I hope all of us together can find that reason at the end of this session, because I really wish that we could all just find our reason together and share it with a lot more people. So on to the next slide. So this was a lovely poem shared by a childhood friend who lost his mother during COVID. And a lot of people, I realize, even people in my close sacred circle, are still uncomfortable with talking about it. But they're sharing it in different ways. They share it with an article. They shared it with, just a one-liner. And so this was shared by him because his mother meant everything to him. And, when you don't even, you don't even get married and you dedicate, your time with your loved one, and your loved one leaves you, it kind of, you think that's the only reason you have. But this poem changed my thought. So I'd like to read it to you today, and then I will move on to my next story. So, you can shed tears because they are gone, or you can smile because they lived. You can close your eyes and pray they will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that they left for you. Your heart can be empty because you can't see them, or you can be full of the love you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember only that they are gone, or you can cherish their memory and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind and feel empty. You can do that. We will be doing that. Or you can do what they want. Smile, open your heart, love, and go on. This is something I'm hoping we'll remember at the beginning and at the end. If you want, I will share this poem when after this session too. Love and go on is something that if we really look around us, we'll find it in every single thing, in nature, in living beings around us. I live with dogs, chickens, sparrows, and they all show me love in so many ways. That's the unspoken language, just with body language of love, and it helps you heal. So when you realize that there's more reason to love, a lot more, that in this universe itself, you will find your reason. And I'm hoping that we can all find a reason to love more beyond blood. It's important for me to even mention that, because we pin our hopes only on people that are bound by blood, and we forget that there's so many more who are yearning for love, and it doesn't cost anything. And if we realize that, it makes us free also. It makes us, we're not bound by only restricted relationships by blood. The minute we love beyond, you will feel free to travel even in times of fear, which is where we are right now. So can we move on to the next slide, please, Nigam? Thank you. So how do we look after ourselves while grieving? Now, this is something that I really wish that after we finish this webinar and the sharing, I would really like, once we get off, from online and you're in your personal space, I would like you to write this down in whatever way. I'm a paper person. I like pen and paper, so I will write it in pen and paper, but you can choose to write it on your device, on your tablet, your journal, your, pen, book, paper, whichever medium. I would really like all of us to write this question and answer it ourselves. How do we look after ourselves while grieving? Because this is something that it hit me only 6 years later after losing my parents. So 2009, I lost my mom to cancer, and 2011, my dad had a medical condition with an enlarged liver. So, and both in the same month of December. So for me, I went immediately into work mode. So how do we look after ourselves? Some of us immediately go into let's keep rolling, let's go. So I did that, because the day my mom passed away was the day I was starting my dance studio. I was teaching dance at that time, and she knew the setup and I was doing it. And it was this very same day, December 14th. And I thought, I should just keep going. I jumped into thinking that I should share things about, on wellness, about the effects of cancer. So I was doing snippets on the radio. So I was just going on a roll, just moving. Some of you will know that if you're doing it already. I think, some of you will be smiling and connecting with the same. There are different ways of the way we look after ourselves. Some of us don't even, we just go into a shell, and some of us might, even seek help. If you're able to seek help, whether it's professional help or, help through friends, a network, especially now when it's, even more tougher and it's happening so fast. Half my contacts on Facebook, I'm only seeing obituaries most of the time, and I'm only constantly, wishing them, condolences, throughout, in a week, daily. It's happening quite ever so often. And so when we're looking after ourselves while grieving, I just want us to think about our reason for living. And, the persons we loved, their lives have left, but we are still here. We're still very much here. And I wish that we could all find, the reason of sharing this grief with more people, because not many people even know answers or are aware of how we can actually, get involved with when someone is grieving. We really don't know. So just by leaving a note or leaving a message to say, can I call you? For me, tea helps, I just tell people, can I come over for a cup of tea? So if we can just find our ways of looking after ourselves while grieving, I think it'll be so much, we'll have a healthier society, because we are having a very depressed society, mostly because most of us think we have to do this alone. No, we don't have to do this alone. Most of the Native American tribes and the Hawaiian tribes, the tribes from New Zealand, all think of a sacred circle, where they are emptying ourselves. Today, you're my sacred circle. Today, we're all going to empty ourselves. You can do it verbally, you can do it physically, you can do it by shouting out. You're muted in any case, so you can shout right away, So really, let's see ourselves as a sacred circle to empty ourselves out. And let's see it from a selfish point of view also, because if you bottle up every single thing inward into your body, what happens when we're blowing a balloon? What happens to our body? Every time we're bottling up an emotion, thinking, I need to be strong for my loved ones around, and I need to hold it in. You burst. And the burst comes in so many ways. That's why we're losing a lot of, family and friends to heart attacks. Every cancer, the main reason is bottling up emotions, knots in our body, tumors. It's caused by just us trying to be strong for the rest of our loved ones, but we really don't have to. We can actually learn to be the ones to empty ourselves more often. That I'm wishing that as a community that we really pick up and, we can just empty ourselves. So on to that, can I move on to the next visual, please? Yeah. So when I spoke about how do we look after ourselves while grieving, this is my kindergarten teacher, Mr. Vegas, and that's my dog Wrinkles. They both passed away, and that visual I thought would have been me. That visual I thought was me. I really thought I'm going to grow old with that dog, and so whenever I look at this visual, it gives me a little bit of comfort knowing that at least if I didn't get to live my old age with the dog, she was my first dog that I claimed and I owned, and I'm a dog person, I'm an animal person, so for me they are family. And so seeing this visual gives me comfort knowing that Wrinkles got to live and comfort my kindergarten teacher who lived to the ripe old age of 96. And so for me, whenever I see this visual, what would have been, I might not have got it, but at least I know I gave it to someone else who got it. So for me, that passing around, that joy comforts me in grief, so in my own grief. So this is one visual that explains it. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. Take your time to process. So this is something very important because all of us, we're in a very, I don't know why we think we're on a timer. Our lives are on a timer. We're constantly, thinking that we don't have enough time to do the things we love for ourselves, for our bodies, for our own personal, self-rejuvenation. We think we have to, jump back so fast. And I'm really worried about this line a lot, especially for the workforce, for people who are back on the workforce, who have lost their loved ones and who, have financial responsibilities and have to keep moving on and on and on. I really think it's important for us to process what we're grieving. And the only way to process it is emptying it out, talking about it, crying about it, writing it in a note. Find your ways to process it. And in time, you might feel better about it, but at the same time, you'll also feel good. In time, there might be a reason for you to actually start to, share the way you handled it with a lot more people that you meet. So while you're taking your time to process, share that process. That's my takeaway for this. Can you please share the next slide, please? Yeah. So this is my mom, and this is me dancing with her. And at this point, she knew she had cancer, and she knew that the cancer was quite damaging to her. But right till the very end, she never really had the goodbye talk with any of us. We're 8 siblings, and she never did it. She always held strong. In fact, what she did was, when we gave her a book when she was in the hospital, we gave her a book and said, "Mom, please write down whatever you're feeling with your body. We want to know, we want to help you. We want to give you some comfort." And instead, she had written her own obituary. And the obituary were such powerful words, I still remember it. It goes like this: "And when I die and when I'm gone, a child will be born into this world to carry me on. And I have lived my life to the fullest, carried my duties with utmost care, and even had a smile to share." When she spoke about another child being born into this world, I'm going to talk about 2 stories. One is her, and one is her brother's daughter, who shared her personal story with me about rebirth, how one person, takes over. So the day the timing that my mom passed away, my sister was found out she was pregnant, and 9 months later there was a child, and it was a girl. So that was born into this world to carry her on. So that passing on is part of our lives, but it is also in the power of her words. I really loved what she wrote because it gave me comfort. Her writing her own obituary kind of gave me comfort. At that moment, it was a little bit, hard on me, but after a point, it really gave me comfort. So that's with this visual. And so this is Margaret Holmes from Singapore, and she is a close friend of my brother Kirk, who's also here right now in the session, listening in. And she introduced my brother to a course called the Landmark Forum, and my brother introduced that to me. So I find, a connect, I have to thank Margaret for something that I still share a lot in my life. I've learned a lot from that course. But there was one thing on her, her obituary note that stated, "Margaret lived a life of joy," a life of joy. Yes, and you can see it in food. I love food too. Thank you, Nirupa, for that. Yes, it is a beautiful picture because she wants to celebrate joy. And every time I wish someone, whether it's their birthday, the first word I use is joy, and she's signifying it, she's embodying it, she's celebrating joy. And I have to thank, my brother for sharing this, because it really, signifies joy. Yes, Sri Lankan home food. Yes. So this is Nandini Raman. She's a counselor, and that's her friend that she met on a training session. Nandini does a lot of counseling sessions for a lot of big firms that needed a lot. And this is her friend, Balvinder Singh Ji. And I want to share what she wrote about him. By the way, even in her note, she mentioned joy. It seems to be the underlying thread of joy. So let me just share what she wrote. "Your smiling face is so etched in my mind, and I will always remember you like that. You found joy in everything and turned it around to spread and share it with everyone around you." The kids would often ask me, "How is uncle related to us, Ma? Nana or Nani's side?" And I would say, "He is God sent." This is what I was talking about beyond blood, because her post is quite long and quite lengthy and beautiful tribute to him. But she wished she had met him much earlier, because the kind of comfort you find. This is why I'm saying, if we empty ourselves with people who we come along the way, we would probably find so many meaningful relationships that will probably help us value and find reason for life even more beyond it. So Nandini is a beautiful example of that. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So this is my grandfather and my father. My grandfather's playing the mouth organ, and my father is playing the guitar. And I have 2 stories to share one for each of them. So my grandfather's story comes from my brother Sean, who's also in this session. And so he was a man of commitment, a man of a commitment towards his family. So the commitment came so strong that he would wade through knee-deep water. I'm talking about floods in, the early 70s, and he would come to wish us, even if it's a birthday. It didn't matter. What matters was the memory of being there for you on your special occasion. We're on a day of emoticons and WhatsApp wishes, and valuing something like this, I think, is going to be a little bit strong. And I really wish, we can take back the essence of our loved ones. So if someone in your life has done something really good and meaningful, carry it on for it. Share it with, our loved ones around. It's very important to share their essence. And the other one is my dad, who always had stories, riddles, jokes. He was the one who had, a story for everything. Thank you, Girish. But one of the things that he shared that we as a family always follow, and my brother actually reminded me of this, was that you could get invited to birthday parties, to weddings, to, anything that's a fun day, but you never get invited to funerals. You just show up. You just be there for the people that have lost a loved one, like all of us showing up, here. It's very important for us to know that, and showing up matters, because yesterday I realized how much, the girl who lost her mother just wanted a hug. And living in a community with, 150 flats, not one person, 150 flats, and not one person visited her, to condole her, to just show up. So I really think we should, start trying to be there for people, because we're going to see a lot of despair and loss and troubled minds around us. And we won't even know if we don't just try to show that we care. And in doing so, we are learning a lot more in life and value for life. I think this last 1 week, the stories have helped. Try not to isolate. So this I want to share with the next slide. Can you move to the next slide with try not to isolate? The next slide, please. Yeah. So this is my friend Muthu. And Muthu helped me. He was a fabulous musician, a very free-spirited person. He was free in so many ways. Muthu did a lot of workshops with me, and this is one of the workshops on the way back at, with gypsies. We did a workshop with 75 gypsies, and we were coming back. It's at a home which is at the base of the forest, and he said, I have to take pictures on this journey back because I want to remember every single thing. And I did not know Muthu was battling with chronic depression, and he did express himself a lot to me verbally, but I thought I was doing well with him in comforting him and in giving him, space to know that I'm there. But Muthu started isolating himself, and he did take his life one day before his birthday in March. So for me, knowing that, I still think that, we need to really see the signs in the notes, in the messages when people are sending us. Really look for the signs and try to be there as much as we can, because he's such a talented spirit and such a vibrant person who had so much to love and to give. And his loss is quite intense, but at the same time, I think the one thing we will be sharing is his memory and his love for music. And we will be continuing that, because he left half his instruments also with me. So I'm going to be sharing that joy with a lot more people and say this was Muthu's. Muthu's rain stick, and Muthu did this. So this is Mama Dog. And while you think animals, this is what I wanted to come into about how animals, nature, and the universe can help us to heal. We don't, have to pin all our energies only on humans around us and give too much only to the humans around us, because animals have a way of coming to you even before you asking. Even before you can even ask, they do that. And that's what Mama Dog did for me. When I was grieving, when my dad passed away, and when Wrinkles, my dog, the first dog whom I said I wanted to grow old with, Mama Dog would pull my, take her paw and pull up my shirt and come to me and say, look into me, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm a reason enough for you to do things for me, And she didn't say those words. It was just her reaction and her facial expression. So for me, it was very important to know that, animals have a way of finding you and coming to you without, thank you, Candy, for just for the moments that you feel you're in despair and lonely. They do it for you so instantly, with the sense of touch, with the sense of eye contact. So if you know someone who really needs help, ask them to find and adopt an animal, because they're going to get back so much in return just for one meal, 1 meal a day, and they're getting, I can go on, I can have a whole webinar about that. But right now, yes, right now they do love unconditionally. And so right now, it's very important for us to know that value. The Native American tribes, whenever they were looking, exactly, they just speak to us with their body language. Whenever the Native American leaders had to find solutions for their tribes, when it was a difficult solution, they would just walk through their forest and ask their relatives. And who were their relatives for the solutions? It was, thank you so much. And whenever the relatives were the trees, the stones, the stream, that was the relatives for the Native American leaders to find solutions for troubled situations. We can do that too. We have to just look around us and find healing with nature around us. A little bird, the sparrows in my house have taught me so much of life lessons that no human being has taught me, and I would wish the same for you too. It doesn't cost much at all, and they comfort you and they give you so much joy. So can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you, Nigam. So how do we let go? Now, this is something that I really, we will be doing it in 2 or 3 minutes, but how do we let go? But I want to just share the points from here, and then we'll go into music. So be vulnerable. It's something that, as a performing artist, it comes naturally, but I'm really requesting each one of you, if you can find ways on a day-to-day basis to be vulnerable and open your heart out, you will receive tenfold. You will not need any kind of, training or anything. The life lessons alone will share with you, And so be vulnerable. It's very important to just open your heart every single day. Open your senses and feel alive. The minute I have a blind dog, and she can hardly hear. She's 14 years old, but her sense of smell is so good. So she knows how to find her way just with a sense of smell. And it's amazing. It teaches me, okay, it's giving me some reassurance. Okay, if something happens to me and if I lose some of my senses, I'm going to start using these senses. So try testing yourself to do things. I'm going to be sharing music of a blind singer, Andrea Bocelli. His music moves me like nobody else, I think one of the reasons why he's a great singer is because of his blindness too. I think he's able to reach out and understand music beyond all of us who are constantly being, bombarded with information day in and day out, with a lot of information regarding fear. I must state that. We're being bombarded with a lot of, be fearful of the medication you take, be fearful of, how your life is going, be fearful of what's going to happen to you. But if you start to think, let me just waken up my senses and be alive, let's just only open up myself like a tree. Use your body to just open up like a tree and say, I'm going to be open today. I'm just going to be open and see what the world has for me. And give it with your senses first. And share it with me. I would love to hear what happens next. I will really be grateful for that, you know. So the next part that is release beyond control. Okay, to release beyond control, I want you to do something. I want you all to just, sit comfortably. You don't have to stand up. You can do it sitting itself. I want you all to inhale and take your hands up. Inhale. And, when I say release, I don't want you to control. Don't control. Let the heart, don't make it fancy and dancey and cute. No. Just do the ha like you just vomit it. Don't vomit, but just imagine that you just emptied yourself, like, everything out. Don't control. So let's do that 4 times. Okay, inhale and again, inhale and inhale and inhale and when we exhale, the ha, it's actually lightening up because we're loosening up our muscles. We know how to stiffen. It's natural in us. We can just stiffen anytime. We just know how to stiffen so easily. But if we learn to just release, by releasing beyond control, just do this every day before you're doing a tough activity in your life. Just do this every day and see how it's just going to change the way you relate to anything that's a tough situation for you. Because you're emptying yourself and you're getting ready, for the next thing. You're not taking in, things that happened 2 minutes ago. You're not taking the stress from that into your, your present situation by emptying it. So do that and find different ways to just release beyond control. It can just be screaming out. It can be just using your breath. It can be just, loose stance, So find ways to not control, because control is natural with our body. So we don't need it, So just loosen up and don't worry. Like I said, no one's judging you, at least in this session. So find ways to find a safe space where no one's judging you and just do it. I do it all the time. I do it when I'm driving. I do it all the time because for me, I think I want to loosen up with my body. And I'm taking care of myself that way. So look into the eyes. I spoke about this, how animals have this way of looking into your eyes and giving you the communication. So the more you look into the eyes, I think we will stop using this too much. The answers will come natural. We don't even need to even question to get an answer if we look into the eyes. We don't need this. We probably won't be using it. I will be lost, but still, we won't be using this, So try to use eye contact. It helps a lot, especially when you're looking into the eyes of a loved one who's grieving. It comforts beyond all barriers. So find that. Try and do that. Try something new. If you can wake up every day and try to find something new, even once a week, it'll change the way, we're talking new normal. So I think it's time to implement it in our lives. New normal is not just for the situations moving around us, but within us. So find something that you can do that can help you change the way you look at things. One is it'll throw you out of your comfort zone, and 2, it'll break all the barriers that you've been, struggling with. Whatever you've been struggling with, it'll give you a new learning like no other. So try it. Next slide, please. So be present in the moment. Can we move to the next slide for this be present in the moment? So this dog, Jockey, was my Zen dog. And why was he my Zen dog is, I'm going to talk about being present in the moment. Animals accept death for what it is at that moment. And Jockey did that for me, when he was always my calming dog. Amongst the others who were getting into fights, he would be the one I call him the priest, because he just, quietly calmed them by putting his paw on them, doing that. But Jockey lived a nice, free life, and you can see how he's very comfortably sitting on the, portico, just relaxing, looking at the beach. But what he taught me about death was when he was in his last stage and when he was breathing heavily, and I was comforting him and massaging him and saying, Jockey, it's okay. I'm ready to let you go. And I was just doing that and comforting him. I actually felt his breath leave in a very calm and collective manner. I really love the way he just let it just go so calmly. And that's something that no human being gave me, that, that experience. But Jockey did. I saw breath. So when we say last sigh, the last sigh, sometimes it goes in different ways for different people. But for Jockey, he gave me the comfort of just letting the breath just go so smoothly. I wish to go the same way Jockey did, because he was my Zen master. So I wanted to share this moment with you. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah. So mourn our loss together. Now, before we do that, I want to share a story about, my cousin, my mom's brother's daughter. She is the third amongst 11 children, and she gave a beautiful story. It's quite an intense and a long story. I don't have that much time to share it fully, but I would like to share just snippets of what she has shared, because it really gave me so much comfort and joy. So I would like to do the same. So we have, as a society, become fearful of death. So my cousin went through miscarriage when she already had 2 children. She had 2 young children who were in the, who were 14 months apart. They were already young children. So they were probably 2.5 and 1.5, and she had the next miscarriage. And during the miscarriage, she felt a lot of pain, and she got pregnant again. And when she got pregnant again, her dad had a severe heart attack just 5 days before she could deliver. 5 days before she could deliver her newborn baby, her dad had a massive heart attack and passed away. But he left with his last words were, "My daughter's gonna have a boy baby." And he did, and she did. She did have a boy baby 5 days later. Her journey of her words are so deep. I just want to share a few of her words with you all, and I hope you can find, truth through her words. If we do not explore our existence and leave the heart and soul out of the equation, we are left with the mind body which overpowers the love we created, and it only reduces us to just ego, simple ego. It's something that I really wish we could all understand, how much our heart and soul plays a significant part in our lives, especially when we're living with, loved ones around. It makes a big break, So one more thing I liked what she shared was, don't be too sad, don't cry, don't fret. Everything will be all right. This is what people were telling her. It wasn't. And I wished people stopped saying these things. It's senseless. Words that have no context to grieve. It's okay to be sad. It's okay for us to fret. There are no judgments. It's okay to feel what we're feeling. None of us will feel the same way, no matter what. Even if we're experiencing the same situation together, none of us will have the same feeling and the same grief. No 2 people will have the same experience. So why do we keep sharing things that don't have the context? It's something for us to think about. So grief is present in our daily lives in different ways. When friends lose friendships, when we lose jobs. So it's very important to know that grief is not only death of a loved one. It's to acknowledge the kinds of grief that we're going to be facing and the loss that we're going to be facing around us. So in remembering this, I'd like us to mourn our loss together through a song. And you are free to, if you want to keep your camera on, or if you want to switch your camera off, it's your choice. I want us to imagine, let's do a simple exercise where we are imagining that we're remembering the loved one that we love And we're just taking moments of those emotions, just the emotions from our body, and we're just bundling it up. We're just doing, so it's a very simple thing we're going to be doing. I'm going to be playing music. I'm not going to play it for too long. I'll play it for a minute or so. And we'll just be bundling it up and sending it to the universe. The universe can handle it. The universe has been around many more years than us, billions, trillions of years, so the universe can handle our grief, our loss. It doesn't have to be only the loss of a loved one. It could be anything that you've lost, whether you've lost your job, or you've lost a beautiful friendship, whether you've lost, something that was so close to you and you've lost it. I think now would be a good time to empty it all out. If you want to cry, if you want to, just close your eyes and be, anything is allowed. I'm just going to be doing a little movement that signifies emptying out. And I'm going to be doing it, every movement, I'm going to be doing it 4 times, so that you get used to it. And join me if you can do it. And it'll be nice for us to just empty ourselves out into the universe. So this song is called Time to Say Goodbye by Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman. It's a beautiful song that it's time for us to say goodbye to some parts of it. They're gone but not forgotten. So if you want to just look at the lyrics, you can. Just give me a second while I play the music.
Andrea, we would like to hear it a little louder if we can.
Sorry?
Can we hear the music a little louder, the song? Thank you. That's good. That's perfect. Thank you.
So, if you got to feel the music and empty yourself, if you want to do it again later, the track is Andrea Bocelli, and it's time to say goodbye. It's a beautiful track. I always listen to it when I'm looking at the stars. I take my music up, I sit on the terrace and I look at the stars and I listen to this track. And I got to do it with Muthu before he passed away. So for me, it was my sending away kind of a thing. I like to end with a small quote written by a dear friend. She's a good friend. And I'd like to share this quote with all of you, Andrea Bocelli and Sarah Brightman. Thank you for sharing, Smita. One day, you will be a death certificate. One day, you will be a reason for people to perform some rituals. People will continue to go about doing their business. So dance like we just did while you have your legs. Paint while you have those fingers. Sing, you can sing. If you can't sing, also sing. Sing while you still have the voice. See the world while you have those eyes. Do not die with a heart of unfulfilled dreams and desires. Leave the world with happy memories and a satisfied sigh. So this was a good friend. It's from her book. And thank you for your time. I'm sorry it took up a little bit more time. If there's anything that you'd like to share, you can unmute yourselves and it will be nice. I did see some of the comments in the chat section. Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. And share the love.
Thank you, Andrea. There were just so many emotions, and I was taken at a place where healing was happening. A lot of let go was happening. Thank you for that. We now open the floor for questions and sharing.
Thank you.
Please feel free. Thank you so much, everybody, for pouring your suggestions in the chat text. We would also love to hear any questions, any inputs, any sharings vocally. You need not switch on your camera, but you can talk and share.
There's no judgments here, so the sharing really matters, actually. It'll help us improve.